How's everybody doing this evening? I'm at my house. Giving another video. Hands up, chin down. Today I'm going to talk about the benefits of amateur boxing because I see a lot of consistencies in the game, and I want to get to the root of it. And the root of the amateur experience turns into top level professional fighters excelling. Okay, and the reason that is in the amateurs and fans see. I want to get back because fans see that they see a lot of knockouts and they see exciting fighters doing exciting things and having these wars that build a lot of following and build a great reputation a lot of times, but the foundation that you gain from an amateur career, and I'm talking big time amateur careers. Me, myself, I had nearly 40 fights. Okay, I started when I was 21 years old. And I had more of an accelerated pace amateur career because I was 21 and it was time to get going. And I was at the point of my life to where it's either get it done now or, move on with your life. So I had about 40 some fights in about a 3-year period in which I did get nationally ranked. I won several Golden Glove championships. I won several regional, or 2 regional and a couple, and I think it was 3 state championships in Washington, which put me on the map to get ranked, to try out for the Olympics, and then ultimately be in a good position to maybe turn pro. But if we want to be real, and I've looked back and evaluated everything that happened with me with a microscope, mind you. If I was going to turn pro and have a real successful career, my best bet would have been to stay amateur another 4 years, try for the '08 Olympics, and put myself in a much better position experience-wise, popularity-wise, promotion-wise, and get more people knocking on my door to go that route. Because what that experience does is it takes you to a whole nother level. It really does, because in the amateurs you're facing the best of the best. You have to win your state. You got to go win your region, and then you got to go to nationals. You got to be successful there. A lot of guys don't even win national championships, but the guys that do get to go on and compete for world championships. And these fighters like Lomachenko, the Floyd Mayweathers, Antonio Tarvers, those are just a few names I'll throw out there because they're some of the best amateurs that ever lived, fought on the world stage and did very well. So when you're doing that multiple times as an amateur, you're getting experience that other pros don't even have. Okay, you're going against elite competition a lot. You're doing it often because you have tournament after tournament, and in those tournaments you're fighting 4 or 5 fights, and obviously winning, because if you lose you go home, and if you're winning you're going on to the next day to fight in the next round. So going through that experience gives you a whole nother level, because you're facing the best of the best. Yeah, it's in a 3-4 round environment, but it's also against the best. So the getting tired and the wearing the guy down isn't a part of the game. It's the straight up best boxers for the 3 or 4 rounds, whatever case it may be. It used to be 4, nowadays it's 3. It used to be 4 2s, now it's 3 3s. Okay, and the world amateur boxing goes back and forth to that all the time. They change the rules all the time. But in that environment, you're developing the boxing skills to ultimately win rounds, okay? And that's the quality that I wanted to capitalize on. I really want to exclamate that ability to win rounds, because that's what carries you into the pros, and that's what carries you to the top level of the game. Okay, if you look at all these champions, the best fighters around, the guys that are consistently fighting for big purses on big shows and winning world titles, different weight classes, and even the guys that don't win all the time, but they put up good shows like the Sean Porters, the guys like what's his name, Keith Thurman's, even some old guys. I mean Tarver, guys like that. Even though they're not Glenn Johnson, the guys that aren't winning every time out, but they're putting up tough, durable fights. Even Bernard Hopkins as he got old, Roy Jones as he got old, they're able to do that because they've learned on a multiple fight basis to win rounds. That's what amateur boxing brings. That's the skill that amateur boxing brings, and these guys take it to the pros with them, is the ability to win rounds. You're not getting a lot of knockouts in the amateurs. Yeah, knockouts happen, okay? You catch guys, you hurt guys. Guys get hurt always. I mean, that's just part of the game. You're going to catch guys with shots and hurt them. But you're not going to do it so often to where that becomes the norm in the amateurs. It's not set up that way. It used to be headgear and 12-ounce gloves if you were more than 156 pounds. Nowadays, I think the gloves are the same, but the headgear's gone. Even still, you're not catching guys in a 3-round fight in a way to where you're going to be able to finish them. So you have to learn to win rounds if you're going to be successful. And these fighters do that, and then they carry that quality into the pros with them, and they know how to win rounds. Floyd Mayweather was the best in the world at winning rounds. Roy Jones, same thing. When you're looking at these welterweights and these top guys now, Canelo's learned it, over time. He's a special case, man. He's really a really talented kid who turned pro real early, but he was an elite level amateur fighter in Mexico. He turned pro at 15, and that was a good idea for him. It's not good for everybody, but for him it worked because he was that talented and he was that far ahead of the game to where it was time to go do it. And I would recommend to anybody who enters the boxing game, you got to enter it for the long term. Okay, this is something that you're not going to pick up in just a few years. You got to go through trials. You got to get hit to learn how to deal with getting hit, and you actually build a tolerance for getting hit over time. When you're sparring a lot and you're fighting a lot, you actually get better at taking punches. And I used to call it the poker face. I used to box with a friend of mine who was an Olympian, actually, David Jackson. That guy had the best poker face I've ever seen in my life. Okay, I'd hit him with right hands that would knock most people out, and he'd look right back in my eye like it was nothing. Now, and I talked to him later, and he'd be, man, you hurt me. He'd tell me straight up, hey, you hurt me with that shot, man. That was a good shot. I said, man, I didn't think it did anything. I thought, you were, just cruising through it, and there's no effect. He said, no, man, I know how to play it, and he did. He knew how to play it well, but that came from so much experience and so much boxing. So you have to get that boxing in to be at the top level of the game. There's no other way around it. There's no natural talent or God gift that supplements the boxing. Okay, I believe in God. I trust in the Lord. Okay, but God wants the best fighters to be experienced, and he's kind of written that in the game. So get the experience, learn to box, learn to win rounds, put them in the bank. That's the name of the game, especially at the top level. When you get to these elite level fights in the championship rounds, people like to go out and tout guys' knockout percentage, but I encourage anybody, look up their knockout percentage in championship fights against other champions. Not just championship fights, but against other world champions. And that knockout percentage goes way down. In most cases, it's less than 50%. And that goes for everybody, because when you're fighting guys that are at that level, they're not just falling down for you. It's a very difficult fight, and it's the guy who wins the rounds that usually walks away with the victories more times than not. So that's kind of what I wanted to throw in today. Amateur boxing gives you that base, and what it really does, if you fought on numerous occasions, some guys get away with less fights than others. Like George Foreman fought 20-something amateur fights, and he was able to turn pro because of his punching power. But in that, we also saw his defensive flaws that he didn't develop, that he did develop when he actually had his second career, when he became heavyweight champion, the oldest heavyweight champion in history. We saw his defensive skills really carry him, and got a lot sharper. And it was a big part of his game by that point because he had the experience. So that's my take for today. I want to give, that understanding that amateur career is very, very important. And yeah, I know guys that have gotten away with no amateur fights. Ola Afolabi being one of them. That guy was incredibly talented, and he ended up becoming a world champion at cruiserweight. But he had incredible sparring for a lot of years before he got to that level. He was boxing with at Wildcard with guys like James Toney, Bernard Hopkins, even Roy Jones, I think, at a very, very early point in his career. So there's exceptions, but there's reasons for those exceptions. Get the experience, and you got to dedicate yourself to the game if you want to fight at that top level, and that's just the reality. So amateur boxing is very beneficial regardless of what critics might say. It is very, very developmental in learning how to win rounds and take control of a fight. So that's my thing for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Chris Worsing, hands up, chin down. Stay ready. Check me out. Thanks again.